Welcome back, everybody, to Mad Props. I am your host, Chris Schnabel. I'm so glad for everybody to be here and get to listen to a guest that was like shooting up the ranks and guests that have been on here. Matt Hill, he played Big Ed in Ed, and Eddy, one of my favorite childhood TV shows. Actually, when he said he was coming on, I got a little giddy because when I was growing up, my favorite cartoon was Ed, and Eddy. I watched it all the time. I watched all 7 seasons. I watched it through when I was in high school into college when it was still on TV. So I'm a huge fan of Ed, and Eddy. So grateful that Matt decided to join us. He's also an avid runner. Gives us a little bit of his running background, a little bit of his running story. He ran 11,000 miles, which is nuts to think about. Ran around through Canada, around the U.S., back to Canada. Really interesting story, so definitely stay tuned for that. Before we get started on any of that, it has been freezing here in Texas. Possible snow here in Texas. So what are we doing? We're getting a blanket, we're getting comfy on the couch, and we're getting a really nice warm book. With Audible, you don't even have to leave your house to get that book. Just grab your blanket, grab your cocoa, and go and listen to your favorite books right there on your phone, tablet, or any device you have. You can enjoy your story from anywhere, your bedroom, by a fireplace, in your car, on a run, whatever you want to do. I personally really like listening to audiobooks on my runs now. I used to do music, then I did podcasts. Now I'm trying to do some audiobooks. Try not to be in that 15% of the people's IQ that's dropping. Trying to raise mine back up, and Audible is a great way to do that. Audible puts thousands of books right at your fingertips so you can dive into your next favorite book whenever and wherever you want. Right now, you can get a 30-day free trial of Audible at audibletrial.com/Schnabel Studios. That's audibletrial.com/SCHNABEL Studios to get your free trial of Audible and bring your favorite stories right to your ears. Winter got a little bit cozier. Hopefully it gets a little warmer out, but for now, we will get warmer with a nice book from Audible. audibletrial.com/Schnabel Studios. Get your 30-day free trial today. I almost got through that whole thing without messing up. Anyway, I'm really a curious person. Like I said, I'm listening to audiobooks trying to learn more about not only history, but the universe as a whole. I'm always asking questions. I'm always trying to learn. And now I have the perfect partner to help me with that. The Curiosity Box by Vsauce is here to keep your curiosity alive. The Curiosity Box is packed with fascinating activities, mind-bending science, and measurements you never knew you needed. We have a Curiosity Box behind us. We got a sundial with it. A completely southern hemisphere. Got to set it up to certain dates. It gives you the exact time based on the sun with no digital technology needed. Are you ready to fuel your curiosity? Head over to the-curiosity-box.pxf.io/Schnabel Studios and get your Curiosity Box today. Stop wondering what all the fuss is about and start learning something new. That's the-curiosity-box.pxf.io/Schnabel Studios. Get yours now and let the discoveries begin. the-curiosity-box.pxf.io/Schnabel Studios. Mad Props is also brought to you by Schnabel Studios. Whether you're trying to relive the big game, or you really want to share your concert with the rest of the world, Schnabel Studios is here to capture every moment there for you. From live events to scripted shows to podcasts to media day shoots, whatever you are looking for, Schnabel Studios covers it all. Head to schnabelstudios.com to get a quote on your video or your podcast or your social media today. Everything you may need to help your business thrive, Schnabel Studios could be there for you. That's schnabelstudios.com to get your quote today. Send us an email and let us know what you want done. You can also head to the Schnabel Studios YouTube page to find Mad Props, to find Sketching Up, and other videos that we are doing over on that page, including Mic'd Up. We had PJ Washington mic'd up. We have another one coming out in a few weeks that will be very exciting for people that like sports, especially around the Super Bowl. If you get what I'm saying, you're going to want to go over to Schnabel Studios' YouTube page. That's youtube.com/@Schnabel Studios. Last time on Mad Props, we interviewed Chris Standiford, the athletic director of Gonzaga. He talked about NIL. He talked about college football. He talked about moving to the Pac-12. I was told by people over at Gonzaga, these are things he usually doesn't talk about, which really made me excited because he talked about it with us. Really interesting stuff by Chris Standiford. You're going to want to go check that out. We also have older episodes with people like Jim Obergefell, Darren Nefsey, and a lot more. That's on the Schnabel Studios YouTube page. So go over there, subscribe to the Schnabel Studios YouTube page, and check out everything we have for you there. All right. I have my Sketching Up co-host, Matt, here with me. He's helping me to produce the episode because he's a great guy. But we're also here because we have Matt Hill on. And like, what's more sketching up than the guy from Ed, and Eddy?
So cool. It is absolutely so cool. It's kind of a little dream come true. It's like a kind of white whale, I would say, to speak to someone you listened to in your childhood and then never like thought in a million years you'd get to actually talk to the person behind the character.
Yes. So I put out an Instagram story on my personal Instagram page the other day. It might have just been to friends. I may not have done it to everybody, but I'm gonna put it on this podcast, and now it goes to everybody. I was thinking about 2024 and like the work we did in 2024. And I was like, we worked with Jason Page, who sang the Pokemon theme song, which is something that's been in my life for a long time. And that we had dinner with Travie McCoy and Walter Jones, the Black Power Ranger, and like we're working with people from Ed, and Eddy, and it's funny to go back and think like when you're a kid and you're listening to Pokemon or you're watching Power Rangers, you're not like you don't think in 20 years you're gonna be working with these people. You don't think you're ever gonna meet these people, and then you do, and you're just kind of working with them, and it's not only interesting, but it's fun to think about. It's like, wow, we worked with we had dinner with Travie McCoy. Like that's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's really
Like it's
cool.
crazy
That's
to
cool.
think
I
about.
think like 2024, on top of that, like going to the film festival, that was like really
Yeah, the film
cool. And
festival is
just kind
so
of getting
chill.
that behind the scenes because I go to it as just a viewer and like to get the behind the scenes, talk to a director, an actor, and seeing all that. That was so cool. That was like
Yeah,
really a
and we got to
highlight.
like be really in it and kind of go places you're not supposed to, but I mean, we were there with the crew, so
Yeah.
it was a really fun year, and it's fun when you get to do things like that. That's why I love that work I do. Like that's why I love doing it, because you get to do something you love doing, but then you also get to see and do things that you don't get to do otherwise, which is awesome. But you are the co-host, maybe even the main host of Sketching Up. Definitely the main host right here,
Thank you. Thank you. That
right here
actually means a
on
lot.
my
You know,
shirt.
you're already starting my 2025 off really well. Really well.
As I end your 2024 with a bang.
Yeah.
It's
Jeez, just
2025.
keep on coming.
But one thing that's really fun that we did last episode 123, which you can find on the Schnabel Studios YouTube page, or you can listen to wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Spotify, Apple, whatever. We did our Mount Rushmore, which at one point we got into it.
We really
We
did.
got into it, which
We
is fair. I mean, we're very strong opinion guys. That's why we're on a podcast. But
and we love our cartoons. We love our
yeah,
animated content. And it's like if you didn't love it, then it would be such a boring 2-hour podcast. Like,
it would.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. No, we got heated on some of them, and like
I will
it was
say,
good.
especially with animation, for me, like animation is that's the reason I'm even on Sketching Up still. Like, I've watched almost all of them. I obviously, I'm not as big into anime as you or Kyle was, which was great. Why we have you and why we had Kyle, because you guys can kind of give that perspective. And I would never say I'm an expert on either of those. But when it came to Western animation, I'm just so infatuated by it, and I love it so much. And I've seen so much of it, and I feel like I've seen every cartoon that has come out in the last 15 years at least once. So when we got to that section, like when my opinions were strong on that. When it was the comic books, I don't think I had a strong opinion. I'm like, yeah. Maybe, no, you're right. It makes sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
but then we
Yeah.
got to like video games and animation. I'm like, I'm
And we
in.
went into like Nickelodeon, we went to Disney, we went to adult animation, and like we didn't have the same picks. Like, and
No,
I think
we
that's what
didn't.
made the episode really well because like we
Yeah.
kind of had to either die on the sword or we were like, all right, we're leaving it up to the listeners. Like we can't make the decision on this one.
So we did the Mount Rushmores, and I thought it would be fun because the toughest Mount Rushmore of all of them was Cartoon Network, right? So I thought it'd be fun right here, right now. And for people watching and listening, I gave them no prep, but I knew I was going to do this. I want to do the Mount Rushmore of Cartoon Network TV shows.
Okay. Yeah, I can
which was
easily do
really
that off the
tough to
top of my head.
do. Which was tough to do the characters. So I want to hear yours, and then I'm going to give mine. They're all both off the top of the head. I didn't actually put them down, but
Yeah,
I,
I can
I
go off
kind of
the
have an
top.
idea already.
I can go
All
off the
right, let's
top.
hear it.
So Cartoon Network. I have Dexter's Laboratory.
Yep.
I have Powerpuff Girls.
Okay. I think those two are staples, right?
Yeah, just like I was obsessed with Dexter. Like Dexter is one of my top. Like I used to always watch it. Um, since we're just doing shows and we're not doing anything else and just for Cartoon Network, I'm gonna throw Scooby Doo in there because that's where I
Okay.
picked up Scooby Doo. Like
Yeah,
I
that's where
wouldn't
most people
know
did.
Scooby Doo if it wasn't for Cartoon Network.
I think it started on like maybe CBS because
Yeah, yeah, it
Cartoon
was
Network didn't
like
exist when it started.
yeah, no, it definitely didn't exist.
I don't know
Um,
where it was though. Maybe Warner. I
maybe
honestly have no idea.
Probably Warner, like
Sounds
WB.
about right.
Yeah, because it is a
Well,
Warner
Scooby Doo, I don't know. Looney Tunes definitely, which Looney
Yeah,
Tunes was also put onto Cartoon Network.
yeah. Scooby Doo, I would say Edna and Eddy.
Okay,
So I have
that's
Powerpuff.
four.
That's
Yeah.
four. Yeah, that's my four.
So I think I understand why Scooby Doo would be on there. I think I would take that off just because I do think of Cartoon Network when I think of Scooby Doo. But I think if we're gonna put a dog on there, it's gonna be Courage because
Yeah, I
Courage was
know,
like the mascot of Cartoon Network
and
for a
I
long
understand
time.
that. Yeah, and I understand. I'm okay with that. Like I know I'm kind of leaning back on it, and we're not having our normal little because we're not in the place for that. That's sketching up. Like I could totally go in right now on that, but I will say that because yes, I think I said it on sketching up. When I think of Cartoon Network, also
You think of
I think
Courage,
of
and they still use him
Courage.
as the mascot.
They use him as the mascot and everything. Can we do an honorable mention? Who would you
Yeah,
your
let's
honorable
do.
who'd your
So
honorable mention be?
it's funny. I think other than honorable mention, I think you could do two separate eras of Cartoon Network just on the Mount Rushmore, but I think the second era would be a little easier than the first era. Like the first era is the one that's tough, where you could still put in Johnny Bravo, you could still put in like you said Scooby Doo. You could there's more shows that were early on, kind of the classics, than there are now. You can also do the era of the new era. I know I'm not going off on your question, but I you can go on the new era of Cartoon Network when they had their renaissance with Adventure Time, Steven Universe, regular show, Gumball, um, and those types of shows. You can have the Misadventures of Flapjack was a huge show for them, and it
Mm-hmm.
also spurred the careers of like everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone came off that show. Was it Pendleton Ward who made Adventure Time? Alex Hirsch who made Gravity Falls? Um, was it JC? Oh my god, I can't remember the one that made regular show. I'm pretty sure was on there too. Like all the Rebecca Sugar, who made Steven Universe, like they all came off of the Misadventures of Flapjack. So it's funny. Like there's a lot of different ones you could do. If I had to pick one, I don't think I could just pick one honorable mention.
You
It's
have
hard
to.
enough to pick four.
You have to pick honorable mention.
I have to pick an honorable mention. Which ones were said? Which ones did we agree to already? We Courage, Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Ed, and
Dexter.
Eddy, and Dexter. Okay, it's got to be something from that same era.
Yep.
You might have to go first. I'm going to be thinking too long about this. There's too many. Do you have any? You have any idea? Or are you still? Are you
Uh
still going?
well it's technically not from that era, but it's like right the crossover shift.
So after. All right, let's hear it.
It's
I think
the Grim Adventures of Billy and
I
Mandy.
knew that's where you were going with when you said it's the shift. I knew that's where you were
I
going with
love
it.
that show.
I did too. So funny story about that show. When I was in after college, I lived in Boston. There's a YouTube channel. If anybody likes that show, there's a YouTube channel and it has the full seasons of that show
Oh,
from
really?
cover to cover. And then when it ends, it goes to the next season. That used to be on repeat in my room 24/7
Yeah.
was the Great Adventures of Billy and Mandy, like just flowing through constantly. And my roommate Manny, who we literally lived together. He also loved the show, and we literally just let it run and run. It was one of those shows you could just keep on, and
Right.
you could pick it up whenever you want. It was
Oh, of
just
course, yeah.
It's also one of those shows You know how they say like that show couldn't be made today?
Mhm.
If you watch that show, it would have to be on an adult time slot. It could not be on a kid's time slot because it had a lot of really crude and really off-putting things on the show itself.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. It has a TV-Y7-FV rating to it. Now, the
Yeah.
TV-Y7-Y7 is what
That's
normally all of them are. That's what
yes.
they are. But the FV in there means that there is some humor or words or something that is not good for kids, but it's not like the worst.
It's it's like just the content that
It's
was
the
on there
innuendos
also.
that come in.
Big time innuendos and the content that was on there. It was just it's why you can watch it now, right? Like there's other shows like Kids Next Door, for
Yeah,
example.
we
I know a
can't
lot
watch
of
that.
people like Kids Next Door, but if you watch it again, which maybe it's because we're the adults now, but it's just
Yeah.
not the same show that it was. So there's a couple of them like that. Anyway, I really want to just say, so there's a couple of we talked about the early ones and how good those were. I just want to say if you did a later one, shows that can be on there that are like super like we're super big for there. I don't know if you watched that Total Drama Island show. I never did. I never got into it.
But
It's still
huge.
going.
It's
It's still going
huge.
today. All right, so it's huge. We already said Adventure Time. We already said regular show. That show Uncle Grandpa was really big.
Yep.
We Bear Bears was really big. Like so, what all I was trying to say is you can really have two eras of shows. We didn't even mention Teen Titans.
You can honestly do 3 eras
You could do the beginning era, the mid 2000s,
and
and
then in
2010 on.
2010s, yeah.
Wow, that's how good Cartoon Network
That's
is.
how
And
good they are.
you know something about Cartoon Network? Matt Hill was on Cartoon Network.
Matt Hill
So we're gonna
was.
go over to our interview with Matt Hill, or our podcast with Matt Hill. It wasn't really much of an interview; it was kind of talking back and forth. We're gonna go over to Matt Hill now. He was Ed from Eddy, and this was Cartoon Network. So awesome stuff. Let's go to the intro. Let's go to the credits. This is Mad Props. Well, my backdrop has been changed a lot because I've moved a lot in the last couple of years. So it's been, there was one time it was all comic books, another time.
Yeah.
Now this is a little more permanent, we'll say. And actually, all the stuff in the back is people I've had on my podcast and people I've worked with.
Ooh,
So
oh,
that's all.
fantastic.
There's a photo behind me of like my girlfriend and I drawn as Deadpool by Scott Koblish, who drew Deadpool. Above that is there was a local artist that
Yeah.
did that's what they made. They made these little like Pokemon and
Oh,
other 8-bit characters. That's what that is.
Yeah.
There's a Jason Page signed card next to that. I've worked with Jason Page a lot. He sang the Pokemon theme song. Above that, Darren Nefsey, Star versus the Force of Evil, has come on this podcast. That's
That's
a
awesome.
reprint of the
Mhm.
original comic that she did and signed by her.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all stuff
Well,
from previous people I've
that's
worked with.
brilliant. I love it. They all have this like great energy about them because it's like connected
Yeah,
with what you love to do, right? It's brilliant.
exactly. Like
Wow.
it's connected to the
Wow.
show or to my job of being a videographer, right?
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, like they had the kindness and presence to give a gift. So it's like I want to put it behind me. I want people to see the people
Yeah.
we've worked with and the awesome stuff they've given
Yeah.
us. So
Yeah. Awesome.
that's
Well,
great.
it's a great life we all get to live, isn't it? Yeah. Very grateful
Yes,
for you.
yes.
Absolutely, bud. Thanks for asking too.
It's things like this that are so excited. Like things like
Yeah.
this that get me so excited. And you know what? Let's just jump right in from right
Sure.
there. Like I think this is a great way to start it. Matt, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate you being here on Mad Props. I am a big fan of your work. We talked a little bit off air about like the show, Ed and Eddy, and how much we appreciate you and stuff like that.
No.
When you said you were going to come on here, and I usually don't like go like off like this right in the beginning of a podcast, but Ed and Eddy was my absolute favorite show from when I was a kid until I was out of high school. I watched it
Yeah.
all the way through the end, all the way into
Yeah.
college, and then reruns. And then whenever it's on now, I still watch it. And I'm 31, so like it's still like every day in my it's still every day in my life. Like I absolutely love the show. So when I was able to get you on,
Oh,
I almost did like a jump in the air like Mario. I was like, woohoo!
yes. I
I was
love it. I
very
love it. I
excited.
love it.
Yes. So I
Well,
appreciate you being on here.
well, you know what? And I think Ed would say that same thing, going, "Well, thank you very much for hanging out all these years and liking butter toast and gravy and chickens and all that other stuff, man." And for real, thanks for loving this show. And because like we said, it's I can't believe. Well, first of all, that it's been 25 years since we sort of got the nod to start and do the first one. That blows my mind. But then now meeting fans like you guys everywhere around the world, that literally, this show in particular meant so much to them, and so, God, I'm like, well, thank you, you know,
Yeah.
it's,
Well, I try to stay away from it was my favorite when I was growing up. I don't like saying that because sometimes some people don't take it as well as you do. Like you really appreciate the people that grew up with this show and the people that are like excited to meet you because of it.
oh,
But not
yeah,
everybody that is in those same shoes take it that way. Some people are like,
dude,
"What do you mean? I'm
yeah,
still doing things."
yeah.
But I just have to say that because of all the guests I've had on, you're someone that was on my TV more than any of them. So I have to say that before we start. So you get the
Well, it's
award of
something.
most televised on Mad Props.
Well, you're welcome, my friend, and good thing you didn't need therapy. That's all, because you get to laugh and feel good
I
about
never
things,
said I
right?
didn't need
So
therapy.
that's all different.
But
Yeah.
when we were talking though, you're an avid runner, which made me even more excited because I went through a big weight transformation in the last couple of years. I actually was 450 pounds. I'm now down to about 230. My lowest was 217. So I'm still floating around and stuff like that. Thank you.
Dude, what a
And
huge
running is a big part of
accomplishment.
it.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
That
I'm
is
starting
huge,
to
dude.
feel the effects. I'm
Yeah.
starting to feel the effects of the weight loss now. Like I just went to the
Yeah.
chiropractor and I have a bunch of
Wow.
pinched nerves I have to get reset. But he said it's because
Wow.
a lot of running, a lot of pressure,
Mm,
and all that weight loss kind of
dude.
messes with your spine a little bit. And so
Wow.
I'm dealing with it, but I'm
Can I
glad that
ask
I'm
you
down now.
how like when you were at your height and then now you got down to like that's like half your body weight, man. That is
Yes. So
huge.
actually, I've been floating around the same weight for a while now, for
Yes.
about 2 years, maybe. I
Yeah.
went from 450 to 250, so 200
Wow.
pounds in about 6 months. Yeah,
That
yeah.
wow. Wow. That is
It
huge.
was
That
pretty
is that.
crazy. I'll
Oh,
send you a
no
photo after
kidding.
so you can see the difference
Yeah.
between this and
No
that.
kidding. Wow, man. What a journey though. I mean, you could write a book about that, man. There's, I
Yeah,
mean, that's
I
such an inspiring story.
I hate saying it this way, but I personally, for myself, got a little lucky during COVID because I started to work out in 2019, and actually,
Yeah.
right as COVID started, I tore my ribs. So I was out work. I couldn't work out for about 2 months, but
Right.
there was nothing to do when COVID happened. I was working virtually, and I
Yeah.
was getting ready to go to grad school. So it for me personally worked out because I was able to. I worked out 6 times a day. And I didn't really have any obligations outside of that, just like almost everybody else. I truly
Yeah.
tried to use that time. And
Yeah.
then it just continued the healthy lifestyle. I just ran right before Christmas. I ran a 12K.
Nice.
I do a lot of I run basically every morning about 3 miles. So
And
it's really
that
become a
is
big part of my life.
no, absolutely. Well, it's funny, right? It's like this athlete that was inside you, right? That is just like, let's go, right? It's like yeah, I mean, running just is it's something that it like when it is something that you're meant to do, like that it resonates, right? And you go, okay, let's do this, right? So I mean, God, running's been my best friend my whole life too.
It's been a push and pull of if it's been for my life because some days I'm like I can run 50 miles and other days I'm like
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to get to the half mile mark. I don't know if I'm going to get there and I'm chugging
Been there
along,
too.
but it's Yeah, every runner's been there, right? Like, there's
Well,
some days you could really
100%.
do it, and some days you can't. And you're quite the runner. I mean, you ran
Yeah.
11,000 miles in a year. 11,000 miles in a year. That's insane. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about running across the country of both countries, right? You ran across the top of Canada and then ran across the border of the United States.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, being here from the West Coast in Vancouver, so just above Seattle. Yeah, we started myself and my former partner Stephanie, who, like I say, every good man needs an amazing woman, and she's an amazing woman. And if she didn't help and do half the running, there's no way I would have been able to do this at all. So big props to her because absolutely. So, but yeah, we ran. I guess started May 8th, 2008, in Vancouver, and then all the way ran to the east, all the way across Canada to Newfoundland. And then in the fall that year, just as the economy was crashing in 2008, we are into 2009. Yeah, we crossed over in the States, went all the way down to Florida, hung another right, as we called it, in our big one looper, and ran across the bottom, basically between, the south of the States and Mexico, and then hung a right in San Diego and made a run for home, and that took us 369 days to do that
So
run.
So was this, like, you joining marathons and taking? Because I
No,
imagine it's just like Forrest Gump running
yeah, it
across
was
the
more like
country.
that. Yeah, it was more like that. We ran, and then kids would run with us every time we would do, like, we did about 50,000. We spoke to about almost 100,000 kids in about 220 school presentations. And so as part of the mission, we would go do our presentation with them, and then they would always run with us, or they would always run us out of town, or hundreds of running groups would come and find us somewhere along our route and join us for a few miles. And oh yeah, it was unreal. And the beautiful thing was being able to use these cartoon characters, and Ed specifically, and also Raphael at that time too, because obviously the turtles are kind of an iconic thing for kids too. But to be able to share this message for them, was a game changer, being able to use these characters to make them already feel like we had already grown up together. Because like you said, right? It's like, you came home from school every day and you guys were like, oh my God, and then he's on. All right. And so I got that gift, not only getting to play Ed, which for me was like, oh my God, like what a gift to be able to get this part. And then I got the gift to be running, and in honor of my dream that I had, meeting all these kids. And then now it's almost like had a third life, where now we're getting invited to a lot of these animation conventions, right? So now, all you kids who grew up with us, you're coming and bringing your kids, and I mean, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm blown away, so blown away.
So before you started doing the nostalgia cons and stuff like that, were you doing any conventions or
Mhm.
going to anything like that before? And then
Oh
now
yeah.
this is more of like a reunion tour?
Yeah, I was definitely, yeah, like, most of the time I'd go, sort of just as a solo act or whatever. But then with the 25th coming up, the three of us just said, "All right, come on, boys, we gotta make this happen." And I'm so grateful because we just did the first one in Houston, as you know, and yeah, and we just heard that. Gosh, it looks like I think we signed on to do like 9 more for this year. So I'll keep everybody posted on where we're gonna be and stuff, because I guess we're doing all 5 Nostalgicons, and then we have 4 more from another entity of shows that want us to come too. So yeah, it's happening, man. So it's like it's officially Ed's around the world for 2025.
And that has to get you excited again. Like, it's you're reliving a great part of your life too, right? With meeting guys that you were with for what? It's 7 years, right? 7 seasons, and now you get to go around and do it again, the same act of something that was really big to you.
100%. And what's so neat is it's like, like that true friendship as well, because we all went through so much together, right? And so now, like, I mean, I've seen Sam a lot over the years, because we've worked on a lot of stuff other than Ed and Eddy on over the years. But I hadn't seen Tony since like literally we finished the last episode in 2008, right? Like except for like I sent him a message at Christmas or happy birthday, buddy, or whatever over the years. But it was literally when the three of us were together in Houston, like earlier in December. It was like no time had passed under the waters of time. I mean, I kept tearing up because I was so happy and grateful, to see these two guys. And, like I'd be talking mid sentence to somebody and I'd just get up and just like hug them. They're just like, Matt, get back, man. Just stop.
It's like
But I'm, I'm a
having
hugger.
any of those friends you haven't seen, right?
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
having any of those friends you haven't seen in a while. It's like you pick right up where you left off, no matter how long it's been.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was it literally, and in many ways it gave me another nod, I think, to where I think in many ways, maybe for what it was worth, whatever spark that the three of us and then also the rest of the cast as well um put into the first, those reads, I think it really had a really good imprint on Danny and the writers because, it was like we obviously all got cast for a reason. And so, we all really worked really hard to just make it the best show that it could possibly be, so yeah. So thank you to all the fans for watching the show all these years. I very much approve of your viewing choices all these years. Okay.
So, did you already have a relationship with the other actors before the show, or did you meet them on the show and just became close because of the show?
I knew Sam because I mean I guess technically I was the first one to the table in terms of like shows, but I knew of Sam, and then but I didn't know Tony until the show. I did know Peter. I knew I no most of the cast actually I didn't know before that. So yeah, I mean Sam pretty much was about the only one that I knew. Because like I said, we'd worked on a few shows already together. But Ed and Eddy really like kind of bonded us together.
And when you got the call, how did you get the call, and how did you get the part? Like, did you already have a connection? Did you try out for it?
No, we, like every show, we get a call from our agent say there, there's this show and, go read for it. And the only way, you're getting close is you get a callback, right? So, with the callbacks, usually, maybe you get maybe two, maybe three callbacks and then you'll get the part. But with Ed and Eddy, he so didn't know. Well, he knew what he wanted, Danny, but he said, I'm not casting this show until I really hear what I need. And I think we set a record for like 8 official callbacks for the show. And we only knew we were getting closer because instead of it being like 5 people for each role, right? It would be like only say only 3 Ed single D's there, or 3 double D's, or 3 Eddies. But then we all of a sudden realized it was just the 3 of us, and they kept bringing us back for the last couple of times. And, but I do remember this one, like it was getting late in the game, and I'm like, what the heck did they want? Like I had no idea because all we would do an audition, like we'd do a read of the scene, and Danny would be like kind of going like, I don't know, it doesn't sound like, like, and that's what they said he was saying on that, on the other side of the screen, right? All we saw was try that again. And then so fellas, I have no idea why I possessed myself to do this, but in this moment, I was like, okay, I have no idea what they want. So I did something you shouldn't do as an actor. I blew right on like the $7,000 Neumann and I tapped on it, right? So the engineer's literally like, what the hell are you doing? And I was like, uh, excuse me, fellas. And then I was like, and I, blew on the mic, and I was like, how do you get water from this thing here? And literally on the other side of the glass, I saw Danny go, right? And I thought he was saying, get him out of the studio. He's out, right? I thought I got fired before I got hired. But Danny was saying, did you get the take? Did you record the take? And yeah, thank God, Chris, the engineer of the day, he said, yeah, I got it. So Danny was going, play him the take, play him the thing. So thank God they got that on, recorded, because Danny said, okay, if you do that, you're hired. And so thank God that that mess up got me the role of my lifetime, because because I had no idea what they wanted. And I guess it was out of the sort of like just out of the blue enough that Danny was like, it was like a certain energy, right? So yeah, for those first 13 episodes, every time I got out of Ed, I like Danny'd be like, no, 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 plan the take, plan the thing. And thank God Chris, the engineer of that day, played me, this thing. So I kept hearing, how do you get water from this thing here? And, so they said, yep. They said, we want Ed to always sound like he's sort of coming up from below, coming up from, the sideways, coming from areas. Only show that they've ever said to, don't ever read the script. Me, I was given that. So, because they wanted Ed to just always sound like it was like a brand new idea. or you know what I mean? Like everyone else is like, like Eddie's scheming, and Double D's trying to just keep everything, tidy and well arranged. And Ed would just be like, and come in all over the place. So I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
When you say don't read the script, are you saying
Yeah.
that they just gave you the script that day and they made you just go for it? Did you get to improv a little bit
Oh
with,
yeah.
like, it's like, I mean, you got the part with improv, right? Like you improv that thing and they're like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh my
That's the
God.
one.
Well, that's the funny thing is it was literally, um, don't read the script to the point where sort of like I would just sort of learn, so that I sort of knew it was scary as an actor to be told don't read the script, because they didn't want me to kind of know what was coming next, right? So the only time I would get it was at the beginning, just before we recorded, we would do a cast read through. And so that literally would be the first time that I'd actually heard the lines, right? So it was hard because the actor in me wanted to, I wanted to learn and practice my lines. And Danny's like, no, that's not Ed. Ed's like, Ed's just like, no. So they said just trust. And so I did. And it was awesome because after the first 13 episodes, I think I started to kind of get the role of him.
You got into a rhythm and then you were able
Yeah.
to almost
Yeah.
naturally do it
Yeah.
instead of trying, like you're saying you had to
Yeah.
act to do it. Now it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's just naturally
Yeah.
coming out of me. I
Yeah.
understand it. I
Yeah.
got it now. It sounds like
Yeah.
Danny had a really good grasp. I know he's the show creator, had a good grasp on it, but it sounded like he also was really good at directing each of you into the exact character you want. Even though you kind of came up with the voice yourself, he could
Whoa.
direct you into getting back into that. So what was
Yeah.
working with him like?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's funny because it's funny when I watch it now, the show was so high energy and like not manic, but it was like, it had a really high cadence, right? And he wanted it. So we heard that a billion times throughout the 8 years or whatever. If we were getting like low in energy, we'd just hear like, no, energy, energy, energy. And, so we wouldn't have like a high carb lunch sometimes because, it just start to get sleepy. It would be like, wake up, and so yeah, no, we definitely, and the good thing was too, as long as we stuck to the script, there was like zero improv, like where you'd think that maybe that you thought maybe we got some of the scenes by improving them and stuff. No, 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 it was like, do the line to the letter, take the beat the way that Danny heard it. Even though he wanted it to sound like everyone was sort of saying the lines for the first time, right?
Yeah.
So
It
yeah, it was
you don't
pretty magic.
you don't wanna get rid of the comedic punch in some of those
Yes,
lines. You hear that with some acting. It's like the line
exactly.
is written that way to make sure you
Yeah,
get the comedic punch, but you still got
it,
to make your own character by not reading it
exactly.
immediately.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, you're bang on, man. Bang on, bang
So,
on.
let's go back to the running really quick because I first of all, that was I sat there just infatuated with every word you just said. So I was just like, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh wait, I'm supposed to ask a question now. This is going on and on. But I do want to go back to the running because we went over it. You went 11,000 miles, or you partook in 11,000 miles. What made you decide to even do that? I mean, sometimes in the morning, I don't want to run my 3 miles.
Mm.
What made you want to go across the country?
Well, I'm a little. I was sort of. I remember when Forrest Gump first came out. I remember people saying like, "You literally." When that movie came out, people were like, "Damn, Matt Hill," because I literally ran everywhere. Like, my mom. I come by it quite honestly. Like, I don't know. I just like the first time I realized that my feet could take me somewhere where my heart wanted to go, or my eyeballs wanted to see. I I was running. I kind of skipped crawling and went right to the run. And it's funny because I know like where we grew up in a little town called Tawasin, which is like right next to the US border. And so it's like literally on a peninsula. So I could, well, before 9/11, I could actually run into the States, which was kind of cool because some of those early runs of my youth, were also where my dreams to be an actor started. Cause I knew, I was like, America, my brothers and sisters to the South, like I'm going to be there. I know I'm going to be an actor. So, basically here I come, so it was a very dream setting type of place to be able to live and grow up in. Um, and uh, and then the idea for the run was literally, um, I was on a plane. It was like 2006, and I was on my way to an animation convention. Believe it or not, for Ed and Eddy and for Tenderheart and all the shows. And so, but I was asking myself, how could I give back with my love of running, my love of people, and also the at this moment in time when the planet is showing a little bit of a strain underneath our collective weight as a as a species of humans. And this dream to inspire like my hero. I'm not sure if you may or may not have heard of Terry Fox. He's a huge Canadian icon. He was the first person to ever run across Canada, and he had one leg,
I
believe
actually
it or
think I
not.
do know Terry Fo
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna say, is he the one with
Yeah.
one leg? I actually do know who that is.
Yeah. So he literally, like I don't know, I was 10 when he was, he was on the news every night. And he absolutely changed my life because, as a 10-year-old, it's like we're wanting to be inspired. And I remember saying to my dad, like, I hope someday I could do something like Terry, in my love of running. And I just didn't think it would take me 30 years later. And so but there I was, on this flight to Detroit, and basically like this voice came, I don't know, I thought maybe I'd eaten something that made my brain feel funny, or maybe they laced my orange juice that I was drinking. But it was really it was, I don't know, my highest. I call it, it's like the when the hero's asking for their highest mission, I got that answer. And obviously because I'd been an actor for 20 years by that point. um, and I was so grateful for my life in cartoons and films. And but I was asking, how could I give back even more, right? And in the spirit of, say, like Terry Fox, like I was saying, and literally those answers came down on that flight to Detroit. That I was going to run a long way, and it was going to be in spirit of something that obviously I really believe in. That's a heck of a lot bigger than just me. And Yeah, and I so glad I had that 5 hours on that flight because it basically allowed me to kind of download. And I kept writing and writing and writing. And I mean, I was ready for it because I was asking for it too, right? And then my gal at the time, Steph, yeah, I mean, it took me 3 weeks to finally share it with her because, I secretly wanted her to join me, but I was so afraid that she'd just go like, "What? What? You're an idiot. I'm not gonna no, I'm not gonna run around North America with you. Like, are you kidding?" Right? I mean, I know there's a Forrest Gump, but he's a guy in a movie, right? Kind of thing. And but thank God I finally shared it with her 3 weeks later. And I'll never forget it because I was like, so I'm thinking of this thing. It's why I've been, going away all this time to just write stuff down to figure it out. And it looks like it's a run around North America. And literally, I was like, "Do you think I'm crazy?" And she's like, "Yeah, I do. I think you're absolutely crazy." And then she's like, "Yeah, but that's partly why I like being with you because I love crazy people too, and people with a purpose." And so yeah, so we joined forces for that few years, and worked our butts off to get ready. we trained like there's nobody's business, and brought our bodies to get used to running a marathon a day. And so, yeah, over that 18 months of basically building this thing, Run for One Planet hit the highway. And to what May 8th of 2000 and no, May 4th, 2008. And we, like I say, ran across the country and then down around the perimeter of the state. And a year and 3 days later, we made it back home here in Vancouver. So it was, yeah, it definitely changed my life. That's for sure.
And Terry Fox is a Vancouver native. No, he's in the Vancouver Hall of Fame, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I know exactly who he is because I went to Vancouver 2 years ago,
Oh,
and he has this whole wing in the Hall of Fame, the Vancouver
yeah,
Hall of Fame, that
yeah.
talks about his run and all
Wow,
that stuff. So that
yeah.
I was like, I definitely know that name. Yeah, he's
Wow.
Vancouver native.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm so glad you know that because it's yeah, I mean he literally changed my life as a 10-year-old. I'd never yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's enough said. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, he
Mhm.
was an inspiration.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
did something
Oh,
unbelievable. And
absolutely.
that so the Vancouver area, that side of the country is beautiful. I lived in Spokane for 2 years. That's why I went to Vancouver because I was around there. I went to Seattle, I went to Vancouver. I want to go to Victoria. I have a close friend that lives in Victoria, and I hear it's absolutely stunning.
Oh,
What
Victoria is
brings you
beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, I've heard
Yeah.
so much about it, trust me, and I'm just like, "Man, I just need to get out there because it's so
Yeah.
nice." What brought you back to Vancouver? You said you're there now.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's I guess because I don't know. I've lived in other places, and then I've just sort of just found my way back to here. It's I'm and it's funny. I'm just getting the whispers to see if maybe there might be another place to try out for a while. So I don't actually have that place on the destiny, on that sort of map yet, but it's coming there. My sense is with doing all these conventions around the continent, I have a feeling, my new town and my new place. I have a feeling it's gonna be. I just don't know it yet.
I
Yeah.
I completely understand. I've lived in a lot of places. I'm from New York, lived in Connecticut twice, lived in Boston, lived in Gainesville, Florida, Spokane, Washington, Indianapolis. I now live in Dallas. I'm well traveled as well, and it's the best part about it is you see all these new places, right?
Well,
Like
that's
I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
you obviously saw new places because you ran
Yeah.
around the entire two countries, but you get
Yeah.
to see new places. You get to
Oh,
to live in that culture for a
100%.
little bit.
Oh, absolutely. You nailed it, Chris. Oh yeah. Oh,
I
it's
think
yeah.
I think everybody should do it.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. But it's like you get you give yourself a bit of a pass to force yourself to go, even if you're maybe, if your spirit's saying, okay, go, then it's going to be a lot easier to say, yes, I'm going to go. Right. But some people are maybe a little more homebound and, maybe later in life go, you know what? I think I'm going to try and a new adventure, another town or another country. And I say, go
Yeah.
for it.
Do
It's
it. Try
awesome.
it out. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's scary to move, right? It's scary to go somewhere you've never been, but when you've
Yeah.
been all these places, then you go back and somebody that's never gone anywhere, you're like, "Man, you gotta try. You gotta try to go somewhere. It's gonna be scary, but
Yeah.
if it doesn't work out, there's always home, right?"
Well, exactly. That's the thing, right? Absolutely. Yeah. I think in many ways, what I love that even say with technology now, it really does allow us to we could do our commerce in all these different places too, right? And yeah, I mean but yeah, I mean, I'm just grateful to be able to, get to do this in life, man. And at 13 years old, I'm like, yep, I'm doing this. I'm gonna be an actor. For some reason, I thought my life was half over at 13, but what are you gonna do? I'm alive, kicking, being happy, So it's
And
very
doing things
grateful,
you
man.
love and seeing
Yeah.
people that you love. So you're doing some nostalgia cons. What else do you have on your plate going on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, the nostalgia cons, I'm stoked for those. We also, gosh, like say we have, we have, gosh, I think there's going to be right now. There's like officially 9, but there's those extras. We haven't just signed the actual contract yet, but they're definitely offers for us to come and visit. So we definitely be coming, somewhere near a town near somebody near you. And then, yeah, and I got the full,
Nostalgicon.com to see
yeah,
where the closest
exactly.
one is to you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have them on my thing for sure. But yeah, no, and I'm finishing up. I'm getting just starting some more Ks for myself, just just the same thing, just keep the legs moving, and putting the finishing touches on my book that I've been working on for a while. So it's taken me a while to do a lot of rewrites, a lot of edits, a lot of that sucks. Okay, yeah, no, that's pretty good. Okay, and so yeah, so the 4 year journey is I'm gonna say is in the final year. So I will publish my book by the end of 2025. So that's it. That's it. Done.
Is
So I'm
the
finished.
book going to be about your whole career, or is it going to be about more of like
It's
the your whole life or the journey of the run and
yeah,
stuff like that?
yeah, it's both actually. It's basically like I guess my version. When I hit 50, I was like, well, okay, here you go. Like, you better share a part of your life. It feels like it's, it's you're the halfway point for some reason, and so the whisper was, all right, get her going. So yeah, I realized I had a lot to say. So my editor actually is like, whoa, you have like 3 books worth of material here because I like I said, I had a lot to say. So but it's essentially my life growing up in Tawasin, right next door to the States. My life in basically in this beautiful entertainment industry that I get to be a part of. And then my life in running and how, the tour and all that kind of came together at that perfect time for me to go, okay, let's take it all sort of to that next chapter. So it's yeah, because like it's funny because even during COVID, I was set to do another run across Canada, but then obviously, like all of us, we couldn't go anywhere. But I
Yep.
was like, well, wait a second, I still have to go across Canada. So I ended up still going across Canada, but I just did it locally. And so I did it in like 21K out and back in my town that I live in now. So it was perfect because I took it on that, like, okay, we all had to stay in place, we all had to do something different, we all had to pivot. So this was my moment to go, okay, you still can do your dream, you just have to adjust, right? So I called
Yep.
it my
Yeah.
10,000K COVID adjusted run across Canada. So
That's
yeah,
I understand that. That's exactly what
yeah,
happened with me. I was able to work out and move and get to
yeah.
the point where much better point than I was. And if you want
Oh,
to stay updated, Matt Hill _ inspire official on Instagram. You can find that. You can hear about the book. You can hear about the run. You can hear about the nostalgia concert. Just stay
thank
updated with
you.
everything. Matt Hill, thank you so much for being
Oh,
here. And we really appreciate you being here and you
hey,
chatting it up and telling us
thanks,
stories
Chris.
and making me happy. Making my day, I'll tell you that.
Well, well, all you kiddies out there listening, you keep kicking your feet towards your dreams, okay? And don't forget to like buttered toast and gravy and possibly some chickens too, okay?
Thank you, Matts, for being here. Both my co-host Matt and Matt from Ed, and Eddy for being here today. Thank you all for watching or listening, whatever you're doing. Really appreciate you being here. Remember, you get a 30-day free trial at audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/Schnabel Studios. Get your 30-day free trial and get listening to your favorite book today. If you're like me, you might be listening to some historical books. I've been really into those historical ones, trying to learn more about not only people in history, but American history as a whole. So definitely go to audibletrial.com/Schnabel Studios and get reading today. Great place to be. Get the Curiosity Box as well, the-curiosity-box.pxf.io/Schnabel Studios. Get your curious mind, get something to feed your curious mind, I should say. It's really interesting, really fun, and really creative stuff that comes every month right to you, and you get to have a lot of fun with it. It's not just junk. We went through it in Sketching Up 2 weeks ago. It's really not just junk. It's really good stuff that you're really going to enjoy. So go to the-curiosity-box.pxf.io/Schnabel Studios to get yours today. Again, go to schnabelstudios.com to get your video made, whether it's a live event, you want your sport event, you have a pre-recorded thing, whatever it may be. Maybe you're trying to start a podcast. Maybe you need help with social media. Schnabel Studios is the way to go. Go to schnabelstudios.com and request your quote today, or ask any question you need to ask to get your event started today. Schnabelstudios.com. Also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, /X, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Schnabel Studios. You can also follow this podcast at Mad Props Pod on Instagram and Facebook. Yes, go subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/@Schnabel Studios. You can find this, you can find Sketching Up, you can find other videos that we're putting out. A lot of different stuff is coming out there. So go to at Schnabel Studios on YouTube to learn more. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you again, Matt Hill, for coming and spending time with us and letting us learn a little more about Ed and Eddy. We will see you next time. This has been Mad Props. See you later.